2020 was a horrible year, with the pandemic at its highest. People were confined to staying inside, missing out on socializing and many others. Which, especially, affected kids a lot. But there was a trend on TikTok. It was actually harmless, for the most part. Anime. Though, anime has always been popular, it was rose in popularity these last few years. A wonderful thing really. This introduces a ton of new genres of anime to a much more bigger population. But, during this time, there was also something weird going on with these fandoms. A few people who could cause a whole chain reaction of harassment, toxicity, and even doxing. Which is a perfect way to describe the Danganronpa fandom during 2020 to 2021. Before I start, I do want to state that I'm not trying to offend anyone at all. I'm not talking about specific people, nor am I trying to make people feel bad. These are all my opinions, so please don't harass anyone, in general really. Whenever someone hears the word toxicity, most people think of the System of a Down album, Toxicity. But, some will think of the Danganronpa fandom. While yes, all fandoms are toxic in their own way. The Danganronpa fandom was just horrible, and I wish I was exaggerating. It could go to just harassment, bullying, to even stealing one's edits or doxing the person. Why? I don't know. I was young during this time so I didn't really understand it as much. Since I brought it up, the stealing edits part. There are a whole bunch of creative, talented editors who don't get enough recognition as they should. To the point where people would have to make videos to ask their viewers to stop stealing/reposting their edits. It goes on with a bunch of other fandoms and editors however. I don't think it was a very huge issue, but it was an issue nonetheless. Multiple editors making videos like hey, don't steal my edits, which obviously didn't stop a lot, and people who would download these edits and post them onto different sites where the creator was not on, kinda took away from the editor. For example, if you saw a really good edit on Pinterest, you are obviously going to think it's from the account who just reposted it. Which may result in the account getting the attention and not the editor itself. Even with credit, it just doesn't fair. Another thing is crushes. Look, obviously, you can have a crush on a Danganronpa character. I'm not gonna act like I'm innocent.
You got me.
But, these people would get so insanely obsessed, it was a bit creepy. I remember seeing multiple people getting mad over an account or a TikTok or whatever about their own Danganronpa crushes. Probably not even good for the person's mental health if they are so obsessed over that they have to harass other people because they also like the character. I'll use myself as an example. Obviously you take one look at my page and are to see I really like Mondo. I'm not gonna start harassing people because other people like him. I always see these TikToks of people making butter jokes or whatever. It's funny. You shouldn't be harassing people because someone else likes your husband or waifu. Mondo isn't even that liked by many, so I'm not going to talk about him so much. I'm gonna focus on mainly Junko and Nagito and Kikichi. Bear with me for a bit, this one is going to need some explaining. Junko Enoshima is the mastermind behind these killing games. Nagito is an antagonist in Goodbye Despair, more like a anti-hero/villain type. And Kikichi is pretty annoying. I don't really know, I hate him, but from what I see, he's kinda considered a villain but not really. Anyways, a lot of these Junko fans and kinnies would say and sometimes even defend Junko, saying she did nothing wrong. As a joke, yeah, it's funny obviously. But when people would go and harass other people for this, it was just, like, jeez. It really does take the fun out of everything when these fans would act like this. And I'm not gonna lie, most of you Junko fans were a bit edgy. Like yeah, you can kin her I guess, but also saying you kin her because you want to kill people or that you're so insane and manipulate people is just too much. Kikichi was probably even worse. Like I mentioned with Junko, a lot of his fans would support him saying yes he didn't do nothing wrong. But also do a couple of weird things, calling him a cinnamon roll. And the fans that insist that he's a gay little uwu bean who did nothing wrong and try to defend him at the slightest criticism. Not all, but most were pretty toxic with their ships. Basically, Saoyama is a ship between Shuichi and Kikichi, and everyone knows how people are with their ships. Anyways, a lot of these fans would go bonkers if someone didn't ship their Shuichi and Kikichi, which acutely led to a lot of hate to the regular Saoyama fans who just wait to have fun in the community. I'm not going to focus on ships because I was never really into that, so I'm not gonna do a whole bunch of research for something I'm not even interested in. But I also want to state that hating on someone because they do or don't ship your favorite characters or whatever is just lame. They are just characters at the end of the day. Elements and interpretations of a fictional universe accepted by an individual or small group of fans, but not necessarily found within or supported by the official canon. In my opinion, I honestly don't see any issue with it, as long as it isn't like illegal or anything. There are even some cute ones. And before I speak, no, I'm not homophobic, no, I'm not making fun of anyone. Like I said, I honestly don't care what you want to do, as long as it isn't illegal or just gross. I just want to talk about this because it was a bit of an issue. A lot of these would focus on the sexual orientation of the characters. I'm guessing it was like a 2020-2021 kind of thing to do. I understand the part of it for coping and for fun, that's different. But if you read the doxing texts, a lot of people would do this doxing because someone didn't like or support their ship. Like go like your ships, no one's stopping you, but don't just go wild if someone else doesn't like it. I feel like it's such a basic understanding, but again, like half of the fandom was filled with kids who probably were just trying to fit in or be funny. One headcanon I'm going to talk about, but I literally saw people arguing in a comment section about, so listen first before making any assumptions. For the second motive, the students' secrets would be revealed. It was a cheap, but easy tactic to scare the students into maybe killing one of their peers. Chihiro Fujisaki would dress up as a girl since his features were very doll-like, not as manly as all the other guys. He was very fragile and small. He would constantly get bullied for his looks, so to avoid getting bullied, he started to dress as a girl, and no one knew he was a guy. But when the secrets were going to be revealed, he decided to start getting stronger, physically and mentally, and he went to the one person he looked up to, Mondo Owada. But, what was Mondo's secret?
Check it out! He killed his own brother!
He had accidentally killed his brother in a motorcycle race, causing him to live with this guilt and anger that even though it was an accident, it wouldn't have happened if he hadn't tried to be reckless. And as Chihiro asked him for help to become stronger, Mondo, seeing how Chihiro would rather fight his problems and not run away from it like Mondo, really got Mondo mad. This jealousy he had over Chihiro turned into rage, and he ultimately killed Chihiro by smashing his head with a dumbbell. But, there were some people, not all, who would headcanon Chihiro as transgender. Why? I don't know the reason, but here are two good examples I want to share. This one, where they correctly state Chihiro's backstory, and this one, which I agree with. This is just my opinion, but I feel like a lot of people will headcanon him as transgender because a lot of these fanfictions were taking place as a non-despero. Which means that the killing games never happened. So for example, Kyoko's dad never died, Mondo's brother never died, and so, maybe, Chihiro wasn't so bullied. Or two, they wanted to just headcanon and maybe relate to it. So why are we harassing and making fun of people who headcanon Chihiro as transgender while we also have people also doing the kind of same thing with other characters? Honestly, at the end of the day, they are characters, they don't represent nothing. And the fact that some people had to leave the fandom for getting bullied, or just it being so toxic in general, is pretty upsetting. And it's obviously not the only fandom for this to happen to. Obviously, everyone is going to have opinions about every character or ship in Danganronpa, but what was really the issue were the people who took it way too far, and I will show you some examples. An editor for the Danganronpa fandom wiki in 2017 had made some sort of headcanon about Chihiro being trans, which I literally just talked about, but whatever. Anyways, it set off so many mad people on Twitter, and I can't imagine how it must have looked from the people who weren't in the Danganronpa fandom. A lot of doxing, which is not only illegal but can also cause a chain reaction on both parties. The person who was doxed may be getting even more harassment by other people who agree with the doxing, putting the person into even more trouble. Or the person who did do the doxing may also be doxed for it to be seen as fair, which obviously does nothing and puts the person who did do the doxing in danger, along with his or her family. If doxing does happen, you should report to the police as quickly as you can, so you can get the person who did do it in trouble. But thankfully the Danganronpa fandom has gotten better, so we may finally be a normal fandom. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.